Let's go ahead and talk about some of the issues and practice adjustments that we have been aware of and have made over the last few years when it comes to MRI contrast agents. As you probably know, we have 7 contrast agents currently available in the U.S., starting historically from when we got gadateridol back in 1992 to the point where we now have a generic version of dotarum as gadoterid meglumine under the name of Clariscan. You'll notice there were a few agents there that we had for quite some time that are no longer available, and we'll cover some of the FDA and commercial company adjustments over the course of the lecture. When you think about gadolinium-based contrast agents, they can be separated by their use, the typical extracellular fluid space agents that we use for neuroimaging and vascular imaging, but there are also liver-specific agents that we'll allude to. The agents can be stratified by their chelate structure. As you know, gadolinium in itself is a toxic ion, heavy metal, but when chelated, it is safe to use as a contrast agent, but there are differences in that chelate structure. It can be linear or macrocyclic, and we'll ascribe some significance to that. The bond between the chelate and the ion can be strong, ionic, or weaker, non-ionic, and we'll talk about significance to that. And ultimately, we'll ascribe some significance to stability, and we'll show you how the agents can range from low to high. With respect to the first pass through the human body, the gadolinium agents we use, the extracellular fluid space agents, typically have about a 90-minute half-life, and they're excreted in the urine, which is how we got to the point where when you have renal failure, the agent hangs around a lot longer, and we learned about this issue called nephrogenic systemic fibrosis, a potentially fulminant fibrotic process that in rare cases can lead to death. And it certainly, causes changes throughout the body, including skin thickening and itchiness. Now, we learned about this back in 2006, and there was an awful lot of publication that went on with respect to this disease. But as you can see, it really tapered off pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, when I was the director of MRI at Mount Sinai, I had sat all of the constituencies down on the table to talk about MR safety practices, and they looked at me and said, why are we here talking about NSF? Nobody gets that disease anymore. And there's a certain amount of truth to that, but there are occasional cases due to accidents and the like that are still trickling in. I think everybody knows there's probably still some underreporting, but for the most part, NSF is not something we worry about anymore. And the question is, why is that? Well, we already covered A. There is no vaccine for NSF. That's facetious. Is it because the gadolinium agent that I use can't cause NSF? Well, no agent is completely free of risk in theory, even though there are some agents that have never been associated with NSF. Is it because we're more concerned about gadolinium retention, and we will talk about those issues? It's because we've changed the way we practice to limit the risk of NSF. We no longer